Welcome to episode 1 of our Docker and Kubernetes how-to series. If you've ever shipped code that worked perfectly on your laptop but mysteriously broke everywhere else, this one's for you. Over the next few minutes, we'll take a real application and Dockerize it from scratch, writing a Dockerfile, building an image, running it as a container, and picking up some solid best practices along the way. No magic, just a clear, hands-on walkthrough. So let's get started. So what are we actually doing here? In simple terms, we're taking an app that runs on your machine and wrapping it up in a container, a self-contained box that holds the app, its runtime, and every dependency it needs. The payoff is that it runs the exact same way on your laptop, your teammate's machine, or a production server. To follow along, you'll want Docker installed, an app to containerize, a terminal, and about 15 minutes. We'll use a small web app for the demo, but honestly, these steps fit just about any language. Before we touch any commands, let's lock in the mental model, because everything else in this series hangs off it. There are really just 3 moves. You write a Docker file, which is the recipe. You run Docker build, and that bakes it into an image, the shippable package. Then Docker run turns that image into a container, a live instance of your app. Dockerfile, image, container. Once that loop clicks, the rest is mostly details. So let's start with something we all recognize, an actual app. Here's a tiny node service, Express, one route that says, "Hello, listening on port 3000. Don't worry if node isn't your thing. The exact language doesn't matter. The workflow is identical for Python, Go, Java, whatever you've got. What does matter are the files sitting next to it. Your code, a package, JSON listing dependencies, and the Docker file we're about to write next." And here's that Docker file. Think of it as a recipe Docker follows top to bottom. We pick a small node base image, set a working directory, then, and this is the subtle part, copy just the package files first and install dependencies before copying the rest of the code. We expose port 3000 for documentation and tell Docker how to launch the app. That ordering deps before code isn't cosmetic. It's a caching trick we'll come back to on slide 8. With the recipe written, it's time to actually bake the image. We run Docker build, passing dash to give it a name and tag. Here, my app version 1.0. And that lonely dot at the end just means build from this folder. Docker walks the Docker file step by step, pulling the base, running npm install, exporting the final image. A few seconds later, my app 1.0 exists on your machine, ready to run. Now that the image exists, let's bring it to life with Docker run. The -d flag runs it in the background, and -p maps port 8080 on your machine to port 3000 inside the container, where the app is actually listening. Docker hands you back a container ID, and just like that, a quick curl to localhost 8080 answers with "Hello Docker." Your app is officially live in a container. With our container running, let's talk about something that'll save you a ton of time: layer caching. Every line in your Docker file becomes a cached layer, and Docker happily reuses them as long as nothing above has changed. So if you copy package.json and run npm install before copying your source code, tweaking your app reuses that install layer and builds finish in seconds. Flip the order, and every code change reinstalls every dependency. Same Docker file. Very different coffee breaks. Speaking of speed, here's another easy win, a dockerignore file. It works just like .gitignore, telling Docker which files to skip when building your image, excluding things like node modules. .git, log files, and especially env keeps your image lean, your builds quick, and your secrets safely out of the final artifact. It's a tiny file that punches well above its weight. While we're trimming the fat, let's talk image size itself. Picking a smaller base image is the quickest win. Swapping node for node slim drops you from about a gigabyte to 200 megs, and Alpine gets you down near 120. The other trick is multi-stage builds. Do all your compiling in one stage with the full toolchain, then copy just the finished app into a tiny final image. Ship the result, not the toolbox. Now let's talk security. By default, your container runs as root, which means if someone breaks into your app, they've got root inside the container. Not ideal. So before your CMD line, add a quick group and user, then switch to it with user app. Same least privilege principle you already apply to file permissions or Kubernetes RBAC. If things go sideways, the attacker's stuck as a nobody. With our image hardened, let's get comfortable driving Docker day to day. Honestly, you only need a handful of commands. Docker ps to see what's running, Docker logs to peek at output, Docker stop to shut something down, and Docker exec, it with sh when you want a shell inside a live container. On the image side, Docker images lists what you've built, and Docker rm or RMI clean up containers and images respectively. Learn these 6, and you've covered 90% of the job. Now, before you ship anything, let's grep for the mistakes almost everyone makes once or twice. Copying your source code in before installing dependencies busts the cache on every tiny change, so always install deps first. Never bake secrets like NV files or API keys into the image. Pass those in at runtime, reaching for the default node. Instead of Slim or Alpine can bloat your image 5 to 10 times over. And please don't run as root. One extra line gives you a non-root user, and your future self will thank you. So here's everything stitched together. A small production-ready Dockerfile that puts all those lessons into practice. We start from the Slim Alpine base. Copy just the package files first, so npm CI stays cached across code changes, then bring in the rest of the source. After that, we create a dedicated app user, switch to it, expose port 3000, and hand off to Node. That's it, cache-friendly, slim, and non-root, in about 9 lines. Let's pull it all together. Remember the mental model. The Dockerfile is the recipe, the image is the packaged result, and the container is that image actually running. We build with T to tag it, run with puppy to map a port, and we order dependencies before code, so the cache does the heavy lifting. A dockerignore plus a slim base keeps things lean, and running as a non-root user keeps things safe. That's the whole loop. If you only remember one thing from this whole episode, let it be this. A container is a lunchbox for your app. The Dockerfile is the recipe, the image is the sealed, packed box, and the container is you actually sitting down and eating it. Pack it once, and it tastes the same wherever you open it, which is exactly how we go from works on my machine to built once, runs the same everywhere. Now that you've got that mental model locked in, here's where we go from here. This was episode 1, packaging a single app. In episode 2, we'll wire up multiple containers together with Docker Compose. Think an app plus its database. Then we push that image to a registry, deploy it onto a real Kubernetes cluster, and finally harden it with health checks and secrets so it's actually ready for production. Same hands-on style, one step at a time. If you want to keep learning between episodes, the Infra Explained series on Dargslan.com breaks down the fundamentals, what Docker really is, what Kubernetes adds on top, pods, security basics, and how CI/CD ties it all together. And when you're ready to go from a single container to a hardened production cluster, the Kubernetes hardening course walks you through it hands-on, same style, deeper dive. Before we wrap up, I've got a quick question for you. What are you Dockerizing first? Is it a side project you've been sitting on? An app from work? Maybe a database you want to spin up locally? And which language are we talking? Node, Python, Go, Java? Drop it in the comments and I'll point you at the right base image to start from. And that's a wrap. You can now take pretty much any app and get it running in a container. Next up in the series, we're tackling Docker Compose to orchestrate multi-container setups, so hit subscribe and you won't miss it. And if you're ready to go deeper, the full Kubernetes course is waiting for you over at Dargslan.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.